Let's get started with our first news, and it's a topic that just refuses to die down. Michael Chandler hasn't given up on the possibility of eventually fighting Conor McGregor. In fact, he's now eyeing a potential clash in January. Speaking to MMA Junkie, Chandler addressed the situation saying, "I get asked about it in every single interview." And to be fair, that's not surprising. The long-discussed Chandler versus McGregor bout has become one of MMA's most talked about what-ifs. And according to Chandler, it just seems to keep staying alive. Just a few weeks ago, the buzz around the fight reignited when McGregor randomly tweeted Iron Michael Chandler, unfinished business. That cryptic message reminded fans and Chandler himself that the idea of this fight isn't quite dead yet. Chandler noted that it's not just about some idea or fantasy matchup. There was a contract and they were supposed to fight in June. Both men coached on The Ultimate Fighter Season 31, building tension and hype throughout the show. However, the fight never materialized. Despite that, Chandler insists we have to finish The Ultimate Fighter. The storyline is still hanging in limbo, and so is the rivalry. But Chandler isn't putting his entire career or life on hold just waiting for the Irishman. He made it clear he's not losing sleep over it. If me and Conor are supposed to fight and he's supposed to come back, it's going to happen and I don't need to force it, he said calmly. There's a level of acceptance in his tone, a realization that while the fight would be huge, it's not something that can be forced into existence. At the same time, Chandler isn't fully convinced that McGregor is coming back. "If I'm a betting man, I'm not sure if he comes back," he admitted. Still, he holds on to hope. He wants that fight. He wants to finish what they started on TUF 31. Do I want to fight him? Do I want to finish The Ultimate Fighter 31? Absolutely. But for now, Chandler's focus is on other parts of his life. He plans to enjoy time with his family over the summer and continue working on big-time business opportunities that have been in motion since his last fight. He concluded by saying, "If that Conor fight is out there and that needs to happen in January, that makes a lot of sense, so we'll see." In short, Chandler is hopeful but realistic. He knows the buzz is still alive, but he's not letting it control him. Whether or not McGregor finally steps into the cage, one thing's clear: Michael Chandler is staying ready. Let's move on to our second piece of news, and this one is heating up the MMA community. Gilbert Burns believes that a potential fight between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria is going to be way closer than most fans and odds makers are giving it credit for. While many are already favoring Topuria to win, Burns completely disagrees with that narrative, especially the idea that Oliveira is simply another grappler like Demian Maia. According to Burns, there's a lot more to Charles Oliveira's game than people realize. In a recent discussion with other MMA personalities, the topic of Oliveira versus Topuria came up. One of them casually said, "I think he smokes him, bro," referring to Topuria dominating Oliveira. But Burns quickly pushed back, saying, "I don't think so. I think that's a very bad matchup. I think it's a way closer fight than you think." Burns then addressed the public perception and the betting line surrounding this fight. Many sportsbooks have Ilia Topuria as the favorite, and that didn't sit well with him. Why do odds makers have Ilia as the favorite? Who is the odds maker, bro? Tell me your name. Who are these guys? Burns questioned. These guys are the shadows behind the counter. So many mistakes. It was clear he didn't trust the betting lines to reflect the true dynamics of the matchup. Of course, someone countered by saying that odds makers do get things right a lot of the time, but Burns wasn't budging. He was then asked directly, "What's Charles Oliveira's weakness?" To which Burns responded, "His weakness. Someone who can defend the grappling and has elite boxing power in their hands." But Burns emphasized that Oliveira isn't just a one-dimensional grappler. He's not just the grappling. People were just thinking Charles is Demian Maia. He's not. He pointed out Oliveira's underrated striking skills, particularly his high guard, knees, elbows, and clinch work, all of which can present real problems for a shorter fighter like Topuria. How about the elbows? How about the clinching, avoiding the boxing? Burns asked. One suggestion was that Oliveira might land a head kick in a close-range exchange, especially in the clinch when Topuria is trying to land hooks. But others countered that Oliveira might leave himself susceptible to a big counter hook, which could be a game changer. So is Burns picking Charles Oliveira to win? Not quite, but he's not ready to count him out either. He's a close fighter, man. Both are my guys, so it kind of sucks for me to pick a side, but I'm just saying it's a way closer fight than people think. In short, Gilbert Burns is urging fans and analysts to look deeper. Oliveira versus Topuria isn't a mismatch, it's a chess match. Moving on to another big headline, Sean O'Malley has revealed that he actually wanted to pull out of his first fight against Merab Dvalishvili due to a serious injury. According to O'Malley, he tore his hip labrum just 10 weeks before the fight, making the lead up to that bout far more difficult than fans knew at the time. Now, with the highly anticipated rematch scheduled for UFC 316 next weekend, O'Malley is opening up about just how rough things were behind the scenes. In a recent interview, O'Malley admitted, "I was proud of my performance considering how I felt going into the fight, and I don't want to have excuses like, oh, it wasn't a great camp, but it was a good camp for what I was able to do." Despite wanting to be transparent, he made it clear that he wasn't looking to take anything away from Merab or play the excuse card. However, it's evident that his body was not at 100%, and that heavily influenced his mindset. He continued, "I don't want to say I was overconfident, but I definitely underestimated Rob's skill a bit. I know how good he is. I just believed in myself that much. That belief, while admirable, may have worked against him in this case." O'Malley reflected on it with some regret, saying, "Looking back on it, yeah, I probably shouldn't have accepted the fight." According to O'Malley, the injury happened when he tore his labrum in his hip 10 weeks before the fight. Just 2 weeks after the tear, while still recovering, UFC executive Hunter Campbell called him and informed him that he would be fighting in the Sphere, UFC's new state-of-the-art venue. That news made things even harder to walk away from. Hunter calls me and says, "Hey, you got the Sphere," and I was like, "I'm not gonna turn that down." The opportunity was too big to pass up, even if it meant fighting at less than full strength. O'Malley added, "It's whatever. I think it's going to make it that much sweeter of a victory after having to lose to him. That loss clearly still stings, but O'Malley is using it as motivation going into the rematch. As UFC 316 approaches, the rematch between O'Malley and Dvalishvili carries a whole new level of intensity. This time, O'Malley insists he's healthy, focused, and not underestimating anyone. He wrapped up his thoughts by saying, "I'm happy with where we're at right now." So now, fans are left wondering, will a fully healthy Sean O'Malley be able to turn the tables at UFC 316? One thing is clear, this fight has way more behind it than just what happens inside the octagon. At UFC 319, all eyes will be on Khamzat Chimaev, who's set to make a massive impact in the middleweight division. But while Chimaev continues to dominate headlines, there's another major storyline quietly heating up in the light heavyweight division, and it involves Magomed Ankalaev and his growing frustration with the UFC's matchmaking. Let's move on to that story. Recently, Ankalaev made a bold and blunt claim about Alex Pereira, stating that the reigning light heavyweight champion is never coming back. Yes, those were his exact words in a post on X, formerly Twitter. Alex done. He never coming back. This sudden statement from Ankalaev has set the MMA community on fire, with fans and pundits alike wondering, is Pereira really stepping away from the division, or is this just a pressure tactic from Ankalaev to secure a title shot? Over the past few months, Ankalaev has been very vocal about the fact that both Alex Pereira and Jizzy Prochazka have turned down fights against him. He claims that despite his willingness to fight anyone at any time, the top names in the division are avoiding him. According to Ankalaev, he has said yes to fights in June, July, and August, but each time the other side pulled out or declined. It's no secret that Ankalaev is one of the most dangerous and avoided men in the division, riding a long unbeaten streak and boasting a blend of elite sambo wrestling, sharp striking, and airtight defense. He's a stylistic nightmare for almost anyone, and that, he believes, is exactly why fighters are dodging him. The timing of his statement is especially interesting. With the UFC potentially looking to schedule their next title fights in the summer, Ankalaev is clearly trying to position himself as the next rightful challenger, but instead of negotiating in silence, he's taking a page out of the McGregor playbook, making noise, calling people out, and putting public pressure on the promotion and his rivals. So what's the deal with Pereira? Is he injured? Is he planning a move to heavyweight? Or is he simply playing the waiting game, eyeing bigger name fights and pay-per-view numbers? Right now, it's all speculation, but Ankalaev's message was loud and clear. He's tired of waiting, tired of being overlooked, and he's not afraid to name names. If Pereira doesn't return soon, or if the UFC doesn't take control of the division's future, Magomed Ankalaev could be left on the sidelines again, and fans might be robbed of seeing one of the most technically gifted fighters in the sport finally fight for the undisputed title. Whether Pereira answers the call or not, one thing is certain: Ankalaev's time is now, and he's not going to let silence hold him back any longer. On to another story. Sean O'Malley has shared his thoughts on the highly anticipated clash between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, and according to him, this fight could absolutely set the MMA world on fire. Now that Islam Makhachev has officially moved up to welterweight, the UFC has confirmed that Topuria and Oliveira will battle for the vacant lightweight title in the main event of UFC 317 on June 28th. Although most fans and even their dogs were hoping for a blockbuster showdown between Topuria and Makhachev, the UFC has chosen a different path. But a matchup between El Matador and Do Bronx still delivers a must-see main event that could define the next era of the 155-pound division. During a recent episode of the Full Send podcast, UFC bantamweight champion Sugar Sean O'Malley shared his prediction and feelings about the upcoming fight. He admitted that, like most fans, he was hoping to witness Topuria square off against Makhachev. "I wanted to see Topuria versus Islam. That was the fight to make. In my opinion, those are the two #1 pound-for-pound guys in the world right now," Sean said. Obviously, Jon Jones is always up there, but those two, Ilia and Islam, they're right at the top. But hey, they both wanted to move up, so here we are. When asked to make a prediction, O'Malley didn't hesitate. Heart says Charles, brain says Ilia, but you honestly can't count either of those guys out, especially Ilia, coming off two crazy knockouts over Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. He's on fire right now. O'Malley's prediction is shared by many who believe that while Oliveira has the experience and submission danger, Topuria's ferocity, youth, and momentum could give him the edge. Still, Charles Oliveira is no stranger to big moments, and his resume is filled with wins over some of the most elite names in the game. Also generating buzz was the release of the official UFC 317 poster. It features both fighters looking locked in and focused. When asked about the poster, Do Bronx simply responded, "Gold, of course." It's clear that Oliveira sees this as his chance to reclaim UFC gold, and he's not short on confidence heading into fight week. Meanwhile, UFC heavyweight champion Jon Jones also shared his perspective on the rise of Topuria in a recent interview with Vic Blends. Jones, who knows a thing or two about championship pressure, offered a wise and honest take. Time will tell. It's one thing to win the belt, but it's way harder to live the lifestyle of a UFC champion and keep that belt. The fame, the press, the money, the girls, the alcohol, it all hits you fast. And only a few people can truly handle that pressure. I do wish Ilia the best. He's got a great team, a great family, and he's a savage in the cage. Same with Islam, but whether or not someone can stay champion, that's always the real test. Coming from a legend like Jon Jones, that message holds weight. All eyes now turn to UFC 317, where a new lightweight king will rise, and the next chapter of the division will be written. Let's move on. Tom Aspinall has broken his silence, again, regarding the ongoing Jon Jones situation, and this time, he's done it in a way that shocked fans by leaking a private conversation between himself and Daniel Cormier. According to Chael Sonnen, he had personally asked Daniel Cormier to reach out to Tom and invite him on the Chael Sonnen show, but Tom Aspinall flat out refused the request. Now, that alone stirred up speculation, but Chael didn't stop there. He went on to reveal details of the private exchange, giving fans insight into where Tom's head is at, and it's not a happy place. Before we get into the leaked messages, let's address the elephant in the room. The Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall saga has dragged on for so long that fans are starting to lose interest. What was once a dream matchup, one of the most anticipated fights in the heavyweight division, is now bogged down in delays, silence, and uncertainty. And this isn't just about Jon Jones anymore, it's about the entire heavyweight division being held hostage. The title picture is frozen, there's no momentum, and fans are understandably frustrated. In fact, over 150,000 fans have signed a petition demanding that the UFC strip Jon Jones of the heavyweight title so the division can move forward. Many fans no longer care if Jones versus Aspinall ever happens. They just want to see an active champion defend the belt. They want progress. And the most logical next step, let Tom Aspinall fight for the vacant title, whether it's against Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov, or any other top contender. At this point, fans just want a champion who's willing to show up and fight. Now, back to the leaked conversation. Chael revealed, Daniel asked Tom on my behalf if he'd come on the show, and Tom said no. But Tom didn't say no because it was me. He made it clear, no one is getting a yes right now, and the reason, he's frustrated. Then Chael quoted Tom directly, hey Daniel, tell him I'm not coming on over there. But I'm not doing interviews anywhere. I'm frustrated. I have nothing left to talk about. That's where things get interesting. According to Chael, this refusal is in itself an interview. He even referenced Bruce Lee's famous philosophy: having no strategy going into a fight is a strategy. Tom's silence, his refusal to speak, is a message all on its own. It's a sign of how emotionally and mentally draining this entire situation has become for him. He's not just frustrated at the UFC or Jon Jones. He's frustrated at his own allies. People like Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen, who he normally views as inner circle, are now being told no because the situation is driving him insane. And here's the important part. Tom Aspinall is not even demanding Jon Jones anymore. He's moved on. He just wants to fight. His message is clear. Bring in Cyril Gane. Bring in Volkov. Bring in Ilia Topuria. Just bring in someone. Let me fight. The division needs to move on, and so does Tom.